Hello, everyone. Hi, we are live. Welcome to another live stream Monday. I'm Francisco Cantu. I'm very happy to be with you all today. Had a great weekend. Lots of college football. Lots of NFL football. It was a very exciting week. And now I am back with you all as I was last week. Today we have a very important topic to talk about. I know that over the last few live streams, I have been talking about, the college application process, about finalizing your list of schools. I've been talking about how to start the actual, identifying schools, starting to send out those early applications. However, today we're going to be talking about something that has to do more with the financing process and the financing aspect of going to college, which is how to get scholarships. So today I'm going to be talking about the four types of financial aid and scholarships that are available for students who want to go to college in the United States. So as you can see in the title, I am live on YouTube and Facebook, and I will be talking about the four types of scholarships for college. And this is a particularly important topic right now because the Fafsa opened yesterday, and the CSS profile opened up yesterday. So October 1st, if you have been watching our other live streams, you know that October 1st is a golden day. It is a very important day in the sense that most, if not all, financial aid forms are open on October 1st, and they stay open until the summer. But it is a very, very important date in the world of financing your college education, or if you're a parent yourself, it is a very important process or a very important day for financing your students' education. So the way that today is going to work is I will be doing the presentation on the four types of scholarships, and then I will be going on the chat and I will be sharing your comments and questions. So for example, we have Viresh on YouTube saying hi, and then they're saying hello, and they're asking questions, best scholarships for MIT. So what I will be doing with these questions, first of all, Viresh, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your questions. I will be going ahead, and at the end of the presentation, I will be answering specific questions like this. So I very much invite you all to make use of the chat, because I will be reverting back to the chat as I go on with the presentation. If it's something related to the topic, I will be answering right away. If not, at the end of the presentation, I will be doing the Q&A. So do let them come, those questions. I will scroll back up in the chat to share them and answer them at the end. But for right now, I do want to invite you all to share where you are joining from. So we have Laura, my sister. She just did the Spanish live stream on both YouTube and Facebook, and she's now monitoring the chat. So on top of me going with the presentation and answering those questions at the end, what she will also be doing is she will be monitoring the chat in case there are any questions, for example, like the one Viresh just asked, that I am going to get to at the end of the presentation. She might get to it before I do as I go on with the presentation. So do make sure and keep an eye out for that chat feature on both YouTube and Facebook. So do let us know where you are joining from. We've had students and parents watching from all across the country, and it's always nice to see where we're getting listeners or viewers or families joining from. So do let us know in the chat where you are watching from and whether or not you are a parent or a student, because what that does, me knowing whether it is a parent or a student who is watching us, that allows me to streamline my presentation and my examples throughout the next 40 minutes in such a way that is more applicable to either parents or students, depending on who's watching. So as you know, I do these live streams twice a week. So I do Mondays, I go live on YouTube and on Facebook. And then tomorrow I will be live on our TikTok and Instagram accounts. So as you can see, here is our weekly live stream calendar. So today, Monday, I'm live at 3 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. And Tuesday, I will be live on Instagram and TikTok. Why? Because sometimes we know that the algorithm shows our content to different demographics. So right now, YouTube and Facebook might be more of a presentation geared towards parents. And then maybe when we hop on Instagram and TikTok, it'll be more of a student demographics or a student population watching this same presentation. So that is why we do them on all four of these predominant social media platforms. And then as far as what these platforms are, if you're interested in keeping up with our content, or if you want to share a lot of our videos with, if you're a parent with your student, or if you're a student with your parent, you can go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I know that sometimes, like my mom, what she will do, she'll share with me Facebook videos, and I will share with her or with my siblings or my friends. I'll share them more of TikToks and Instagram Reels and all that stuff. So depending on who's in your household, depending on who you want to share this content with, we publish everything in different formats depending on the platform, and it might be in your best interest to follow all four of them so that you can get the same information. So for example, earlier I was talking about October 1st being a super important day because of the Fafsa and the CSS profile. And if you are following them all across the board, you'll be able to see, our TikToks about why the FAFSA is important, or what are the main tips for filling it out. Or if you follow us on YouTube, you'll see an extended video explaining the difference between the FAFSA or the CSS profile. Or when we go live, you'll get a notification. So that is those are the different ways in which we employ all social media accounts that we have. I see I'm getting a comment on YouTube from John. John is saying hello from Florida. We're also in Florida. Hello, John. I am in Fort Lauderdale right now, and that is where we do our live streams out of. So nice to have another Floridian here. And then Viresh is watching us from India. Viresh, we're so glad to have you here. Inside Best College Aid, we have a lot of international students, and inside our program, we have a whole section devoted for international students who are seeking to apply for generous schools and schools that apply to them to their field of interest. So hopefully throughout the next 40 minutes, you can get a lot of value out of this presentation. So that was all the housekeeping I wanted to get done before I started the presentation. Without further ado, as I mentioned earlier, we will be talking about the 4 types of scholarships for students and how they can use them to pay for college. So let's get started. All right, so first, the way that this is going to work is I am going to use this beginning of the presentation to explain the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships available for students. So I'm just going to list those 4. You can see them on the screen. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on them. And then I'm going to go through one by one and go a little bit into more depth as to how you can qualify for them, what is necessary to be eligible to receive, whether it's federal aid, state aid, private aid, whatever it is. And then that way you will hopefully get a better understanding of the steps you need to take in the upcoming months in order to master this process. And then at the end, for those of us who stick around until then, who are interested more about Best College Aid and our full program, I will be talking about that at the end, as well as answering those questions that I already promised I would answer on the chat, whether it's, again, YouTube chat or Facebook chat. But I just wanted to give you all this overview of what the presentation is going to look like. So let's get started by just listing the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships. Again, I will elaborate more on each one of them after I list them. So the first type is federal aid. As you can guess by the name, those are scholarships or financial aid awards that are given out by the federal United States government. And to qualify for those, I will elaborate a little bit more later, but generally that is whenever you think of the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, that is what federal aid is more directly tied to in terms of forms. Again, I'll elaborate more a little bit later. Next type of financial aid is institutional aid. This is money that is given out by the universities themselves through money that they have accumulated in their endowment. In other of our live streams, if you've joined or if you're a part of the Best College Aid program, you should know what an endowment is. In case you are not, endowment is pretty much just money that the university has stored, whether it's through donations, whether it's through revenue, and they use those. They use that money in their endowment to fund projects, to pay staff, to fund scholarships, and institutional aid is money that is given out by the university itself, and usually makes up a great, if not the greatest chunk of money that a student is eligible to receive in their financial aid award package. All right. Again, more on each of these later. I'm just doing an overview right now. Next up is private aid. Whenever you are thinking of the Comcast scholarship, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation scholarship, the Dunder Mifflin, I'm making it up, Dunder Mifflin Foundation, or the any sort of private scholarship from a well-known company, a private entity, a whatever it may be that is not a school, a federal the federal government or the state government, it most likely is private aid or private scholarships. And finally, state aid, as the name suggests, is money that is given out by the states themselves. I'm going to elaborate more on what each state does to give out that this money and these awards, but do know that every state has its own different set of policies to give out state aid. So let's see. Jenna Dean is saying, thank you, Francisco. Thank you for this amazing topic, Francisco. My pleasure. I will go ahead and elaborate on each of these as I go along. And again, if you have questions, do keep an eye out after you ask it on the chat, because Laura, she is monitoring that chat. I will come back to the questions at the end, but it will be in your best interest to go ahead and ask a question and keep looking at the chat for a response from Laura, because I'll go on with the presentation and then it won't be until the end when I completely dive into all the specific questions. But as far as that comment, Jenna, you are very welcome. All right. Next up, now I'm going to elaborate on each of these. So let's start with the first type of aid or scholarship that I talked about or that I shared, and that is federal aid. As I mentioned earlier, this money is money that is given out by the federal government. And as I teased a little bit, the free application for federal student aid, which, by the way, opened yesterday, right? So the free application for federal student aid, the Fafsa, it opens up every year on October 1st, and it should be filled out by every student who next year will be going to college. So if your student right now is a senior in high school, meaning next year, the 2023-2024 school year, they will be enrolled in college, they need to fill out the free application for federal student aid in order to be eligible for federal aid and scholarships, right? And then every year after that, on October 1st, the form will open up again and again and again. And your students, assuming that right now they're a senior in high school, when they're a freshman in college, they will fill it out for right now they're filling it out for their freshman year. Then next year, they'll fill it out while they're a freshman, but for their sophomore year. Then the following year, while they're a sophomore, they will fill it out for their junior year. While they're a junior, they will fill it out for their senior year of college. And then once they are a senior in college, if they do not have plans to enroll in school again, then they will not need to fill it out. But for in most cases, people fill it out from senior year of high school through junior year of college, because again, it should be filled out every year before the student will be going to college starting October 1st. Looking at the chat real quick. Again, I'm not answering questions just yet. I will at the end of the presentation, but I see that Best College Aid is commenting. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Best College Aid. That's true. If you enjoy the way that I'm explaining things, don't hesitate or do help us out with a like or a subscribe if you want to get notified whenever we do these live streams or post any videos, or if you are just enjoying these explanations, go ahead and like and subscribe. But that's just a little break from the explanation. I'll get back to the chat at the end of the presentation. Continuing on with federal aid, what it does is amongst other things, what filling out the FAFSA does is it makes a student eligible for grants, for loans and work study. So going one by one, whenever you think of a scholarship, or whenever people think of, oh, my friend or my cousin, whoever it may be in my life, got a full ride to XYZ school, what they really mean, or in most cases, what they mean, is that their financial aid package or their scholarship award package exceeded, between grants, scholarships, work study, all those things, they receive more money than what it would cost to attend school. So whenever you are thinking of grants, you can just think of free money. That is usually what you think of whenever you are given a scholarship money, a sum of money that you do not have to pay back, right? So I just want to make that distinction. I know that a lot of you probably already know that, but for those of you that don't, I'd much rather over-explain than under-explain. That's something that we always emphasize with our students in our lessons, and whenever we give them advising or counseling online, we always rather over-explain. So yeah, grants, free money, you do not have to pay it back, and they differ from loans, because loans, as again, you probably already know, you do have to pay back, and there are different types of loans. There are subsidized loans, which are subsidized by the United States government, meaning that interest won't accrue while they're in school, while unsubsidized loans, they will start to accumulate interest as you're studying. So applying for the FAFSA, on top of giving you access to grants, it also allows you to be eligible for good loans, loans that have a lower interest rate, loans that are subsidized and don't begin to accumulate interest as you are in college. So super important to go ahead and know the distinction between the types of loans that you will be offered, because you do not want to just accept the loan because it's being offered to you. You want to make sure that if you are in a position in which you have to, which again, ideally, we do everything we can to teach our students how not to require loans. But if you do end up in that situation, you want to make sure that you are being intentional about which loans you are taking out, because the worst thing you could do is just accept any loan that is being thrown your way because you can't afford to go to school without it. You want to be very intentional and intelligent about understanding what is being offered to you, and only accept whatever is manageable, whatever is convenient, whatever's, not predatory, not, unreasonable with their interest rates and with their payback policies, and whether or not it's subsidized and whatnot. So again, the one thing, or the last thing I want to say about loans when it comes to the FAFSA, is that if you fill them out, odds are that you will be eligible to receive healthier loans, or you'll be offered healthier loans than if you were to go ahead and solicit them through a private entity. All right. But again, the whole rest of this presentation will be geared towards not even having to resort to loans. But I do think that it's very important to know those distinctions before we move on. And the last thing I want to say about federal government or federal aid is that it also enables a student to qualify for something called work study. And that's something that a lot of students don't know about until they get to school. When I started school at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, I was offered work study, which pretty much meant that through the university itself, I was being offered an employment. It could be at any of the different types of jobs that they offered students. And this money or my salary would go towards helping pay for my tuition. So what I did with that is, I was a swimmer my entire life. I I had my lifeguard certification. So before I even stepped into my first class on move-in weekend, I applied for a lifeguarding position at the pool at UNC. I got that job through the work study program. So pretty much it was like having an extra class, in the sense of, in between my 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. class, I would change and clock in for my lifeguard shift, and it would be pretty much just lifeguarding while we call them outfit classes. Those were our, sports classes, that general education requirements that you had to take. You had to take one sports class. A lot of people chose swimming or water polo or whatnot. So I would lifeguard during that period. And yeah, I mean, it would be like taking an extra class, but that money was given to me to help pay for my education. So it wasn't too taxing on me because these work study jobs, again, I was a lifeguard my first 2 years before I moved into my internship, but other people choose to work at the library, other people choose to work at something related to the field of study, whether it would be at a lab or as a teaching assistant or a resident advisor, which pays or could pay for your housing. Depending on what you want to do, you could qualify again for this work study and suit and select whatever position or field of study or field of employment that would best align with what you are studying. But in order to qualify for it, you do want to fill out the free application for federal student aid, because some positions are only offered to students who are awarded work study. So again, even if it's not a something that you are super fond of and that you do not want to start college with a job right away, which by the way, it's something that I very much recommend just because it teaches you a lot of responsibility, and it's a good way to meet new people while you're starting school, and it's a good way to help fund your education and your personal expenses while you're at school. I very much recommend, if you have the chance to work during college, to do it in a healthy, reasonable way that doesn't conflict with your studies, because I think it's a win-win all around when it comes to teaching your responsibility and again decreasing that final cost of tuition. But that's the last thing I wanted to cover as far as federal aid. And again, to unlock all of these, you need to fill out the FAFSA, which opened up yesterday, October 1st. If you are a senior or if you're already in college, make sure to fill that out. I do want to take the opportunity while we're on the topic of the FAFSA and filling it out. If you are a little bit lost or if you are not sure about how to proceed with a lot of these forms, I know that I am getting questions in both the YouTube and Facebook chat about all things related to paying for college and whatnot. So this is a good time to thank the Best College Aid Program, the sponsor of this live stream, and what allows me to tune in every week and do these presentations is our full paid program, the Best College Aid Program. We teach families how to navigate the college admissions journey. But before even considering joining the Best College Aid Program, we do have a free training, the 6 strategies to help your children get accepted to college with scholarships. And this training is completely free, and it is in the link below this video. Full transparency, as I was mentioning, at the end of this presentation, we do talk more about the Best College Aid Program, what it includes, all the benefits, how we can help you. We talk about what your personalized plan or what your students should be doing throughout the next few weeks or months in order to maximize their odds of acceptance at all the different schools that they're interested in, or if they don't even know what schools they're interested in. In this free training, we talk about setting up those parameters to find those schools that are appropriate for your students. And also we start talking about ways to fill out all this documentation. And again, if after watching this training or after watching this specific live stream that you're watching right now, you enjoy my teaching style, or you are interested in learning more, I do recommend that you go ahead and check out the link in the description of this video. So we made this presentation as a catch-all for people who have questions but don't know where to start, or they have too many questions to ask in the chat, or simply people who are curious. Again, the free training is completely free, no strings attached. Best case scenario, you get a great presentation that was completely free, and you decide to join the Best College Aid program. And if you are not interested, worst case scenario, you got a free presentation out of it, and you can still come back to these weekly live streams. And I'm still going to continue to tune in every Monday on Facebook and YouTube, and every Tuesday on Instagram and TikTok. I'm still going to need to do these free live streams because we want to reach as many people as possible with this general content and these presentations, that we try to align them with what's going on in the college admissions process. But if you're interested in the whole process, not just a presentation like I'm doing right now in the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships, well, the full paid program is very much structured to cover every single step of the process. So I did want to go ahead and share that with you all before I moved on, just because it was applicable to what we were discussing about the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, which again opened up yesterday, right? So that's that for the first type of financial aid and scholarship. Next up, I want to move on to institutional aid, right? And institutional aid, it is money, or those are scholarships that are provided at the university or at the college level for their students, right? So in my case, I went to the University of North Carolina. I studied in Chapel Hill, and my financial aid award package consisted of, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, 4 types of funding, right? There was federal aid that I received. There was institutional aid. Had I stayed in Florida, I would have qualified for state aid, but I went out of state. So scratch that. It was 3 types of financial aid and scholarships. And the third one being private scholarships, which I will talk about more later on. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you all, specifically now that I'm talking about institutional aid, it is because in the majority of cases, as is every time we revise a financial award package for best college age students who get scholarships or get accepted to college and they get their award packages, in the majority of cases, institutional aid makes up the greatest chunk of scholarships provided for a student, right? So it is super important that your student does what they have to do, which I will talk about a little bit, which I will talk about as soon as I'm done with this sentence. It is super important that your student does everything they need to do to qualify for institutional aid, because odds are that the majority or the greatest chunk of their award package will come from the institution itself. So what does a student need to do to qualify for institutional aid? Well, I already talked about the FAFSA in the last slide. Even though it is predominantly for federal aid, some institutions, or a lot of institutions, look at the FAFSA to determine a student's financial makeup, their family's financial makeup, and then award packages, financial aid award packages based on the necessity that they see or the merit that they see. But they do need the FAFSA, as well as probably the most institutional aid-based form, which is called the CSS profile, right? So there's a group of around 400 schools. In my case, the University of North Carolina was one of them, which require a form called the CSS profile. They require students and their families to submit the CSS profile after the October 1st deadline, so that they can assess the students' families, their financial makeup, what assets they have, the debts, get a general picture as to what the family finances look like. And then based on this assessment, they can go ahead and determine, okay, there's this much demonstrated financial need. There's this, they get a better picture of what the students' finances look like and their families. And based on that, they can offer, similar to federal aid, they can offer a combination of grants, scholarships, and different types of loans, which again, the whole point of this presentation is to try our best to get away from loans. But if you have to take out loans, you do want to have as many options being offered to you through federal loans or institutional loans. And you want to compare their policies, whether they're subsidized, not subsidized, which one has the lowest interest rate. So that at the end of the day, if you do happen to require a loan, you take one that is most suitable for your finances and the one that works the best for you and your family, right? So that is institutional aid. Again, the majority of a financial aid award package, not to say all of them, but in most cases, a financial aid award package will be mostly made up of institutional aid. Universities use money from their endowment to go ahead and fund these packages. So that was institutional aid. Next up, I want to talk about probably the most, I'm going to talk first about state aid. Right. So as I teased a little bit earlier when I was doing the overview of all types of financial aid and scholarships, State aid is money that is provided at the state level, right? So each one of the states in the United States have or has their own policies as to what makes a student qualify or what makes a student not qualify for state aid. And this money is given out in the form of state grants or scholarships. Again, free money. And as I mentioned, it is different in every state. So, for example, in Florida, right here in Florida, I know John was talking about being in Florida as well, and this might be sort of what his question, which I'm sharing right now. John asks, I heard about a scholarship if you are a Florida resident. Are you aware of it? And how can my daughter apply for it? It's not Bright Future or Fafsa. It's something else. All right. So I'll dive a little bit more into the different types of scholarships that are specific to Florida. But for the sake of this example, I will talk about state programs that are very similar across the board. So in Florida, John mentioned Bright Futures. And yes, Bright Future is the state program that is applicable to Florida. It might not be the one that we were talking about in your question. I'll get to more programs when I talk about private scholarships. But for the sake of this slide, Bright Futures is, in the case of Florida, the tuition assistance program that they have. And for it, they have different requirements, right? They have baseline GPA or a baseline standardized test scores that they have to meet or exceed. Other states may have, for example, I know that New York has the New York Tuition Assistance Program. I know that California has, I think, is the Cal Grant. Texas has something else as well. So every state has their own type of state aid program for which they have their own requirements. And what we do in Best College Aid is we teach our students, okay, you are from this state. You have to find out what the state aid program is. Here are the steps to do that because, and this is what I'm recommending that you all do right now if you want to qualify for state aid, is check out the policies in your own respective state. Again, for the sake of Florida, for this example, it's Bright Futures. You want to go into Bright Futures website and you want to check out what the minimum requirements are, because if you do qualify for Bright Futures and you do want to stay in the state of Florida, it is in your best interest to go ahead and apply for it. And how do you apply for it? Well, again, every state is different, but a lot of them require a student to fill out the Fafsa, right? So through this federal aid form, states can determine a student's finances and a student's, get the whole financial picture of the family whenever they are processing the applications and whatnot. Some states might require you to fill out a completely different application for their state aid. But I do want to preface all of this with the FAFSA being a very big common denominator amongst most states for you to fill out in order to qualify for state aid, right? So that is what state aid is. And next up, the fourth and final type of financial aid and scholarship that your student could qualify for is probably the most popular one. And whenever people think of scholarships, they think of this, and this is private aid. And what private aid or private scholarships are pretty much is just whenever you think of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, whenever you think about the Comcast Leaders and Achievers Scholarship, or a scholarship for people who write with their left hand, or a scholarship for people who wear glasses, all of these are funded by private entities, whether it's companies, whether it's lobbies, whatever it may be. Private aid is funded by private companies and given out to applicants. And because these are processes which are handled, created, and administered by private entities, each one of these private institutions or these private groups could have their own policies for who is eligible for those scholarships. Now, here's where a lot of people, there's a lot of urban legends as to what is a good scholarship or what is the best application strategy for private scholarships. I'm going to share with you all my philosophy and what we teach our students inside Best College Aid. And that is simply that there's a saying, niches are the richest. So pretty much if your student is a, left-handed first generation immigrant from, I don't know, Colombia, living in South Florida. Let's say that your student is that. You could add any sort of trait or characteristics that do define your student, or that do describe your student. The more specific a scholarship is in terms of its eligibility and its requirements and its purpose, the more likely your student is to get it, because the less competition there will be. So a lot of people tell me, oh, but I want to apply to the full ride Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that covers full tuition and all college related expenses, right? So whether this be, all college related expenses. I'm not going to give any examples, full ride, everything covered. While this is great, and I'm not telling you not to apply, the thing is 12,000 other students are applying for that same scholarship. So where we see the most success with our students is when they focus on applying to more specific, maybe not as large sums of money, but students who apply to more specific, more local, smaller scholarships usually have a better fighting chance, because they are competing against 5 other applicants, 10 other applicants, 20 other applicants, 50 other applicants, which, again, for a $2,000 scholarship or a $1,000 scholarship, those odds are better. And it is a better use of your time to find those specific smaller scholarships and then make yourself as eligible for that, rather than having a 0.0001% chance at a full ride. So usually we do recommend that students go more specific, even if those are smaller chunks of money. In my particular case, I applied to a smaller scholarship. It was sponsored by Comcast. It was a Comcast Young Leaders and Achievers Scholarship, and I think it was for $1,500, $1,500. And I had to write an essay about my leadership experiences, and I applied for it. Didn't take too long. It was a nice addition to my freshman year financial award package, in which I was not having to worry about my meal plan, because it got covered by that scholarship. My brother David, he applied for a local relocation committee scholarship down here in Broward County, Florida. And the qualifications for that scholarship was simply someone who had moved from a different county. And because he had those credentials when we moved to Broward County 11 years ago, he went ahead and applied, and that scholarship was, I believe, $2,000, something like that. So again, it's not as juicy as a full ride, but you can start to see how $1,000 here, $2,000 there, $500 there, and especially if you do it throughout the 4 years, it can very much add up to all of a sudden $16,000 of money saved throughout college. And which leads me perfectly into the second point. So the first point is use search engines, FastWeb, Unigo, scholarships.com. Those are some of the ones that we recommend for our members that I invite you all to use. And make sure that you get as specific as you can with the scholarships that you're finding based on your qualifications. So as the first piece of advice, the second piece of advice that most people, I don't know if they know or don't know about, but certainly they do not do it, that is to continue to apply for private scholarships after your senior year of high school. So a lot of students make the mistake of only applying to scholarships, private scholarships for that matter, when they are a senior in high school. And then once they get to college, they think that their financial aid award package is their financial aid award package, and that's that, right? And they do not make any extra efforts to continue to apply for private scholarships. And then they miss out on the fact that they could still qualify for, again, $1,000 here, $2,000 there throughout their sophomore, junior, and senior year of college. So those are the two main things that I wanted to share with you all for the sake of the presentation. John on YouTube is asking, is CSS profile only for private or also public universities? So great question. I went to the University of North Carolina, and that is a public institution, but despite being public, it did require the CSS profile. So there is a list you can Google. You can go ahead. Yeah, you can just Google schools that require CSS profile, and it will show up. Again, it's around 400 schools. So what I recommend if you check out the presentation that we have in the link in bio, one of the steps is how to make your search criteria, how to find how to finalize your list of colleges. And once your student, if you're a student, if you're a student, then you can do this yourself. If you're a parent, then I would invite you to tell your student to do this. But once you have that final list of schools, following what we teach in the free training in the link in bio, you want to go ahead and do the Google search, schools that require the CSS profile. And once you do that, you will see, okay, you will want to look at each of the schools in your list. Again, it could be 8 to 12 schools in your list, that however many you want to apply to, one by one search if that school requires a CSS profile. And for those schools that require the CSS profile, you want to make sure that you have it filled out and sent to them as early as possible, because the money that is given out through both the FAFSA and the CSS profile make a student eligible, as we've talked about throughout the presentation, for a lot of different types of scholarships, grants, all that stuff. And a lot of the money that is given out through these comes or is given out in a first come, first serve basis. So the earlier you do this and the earlier you go through this process, the better. But as far as your specific question as of is the CSS profile for private schools only or also public universities, it depends on the school. Go ahead and Google the schools in your list once you have that finalized to check if they require the CSS profile or not, just to be sure. All right. Great question. Excellent question. Next up, I wanted to remind you all, I have been doing it throughout the entire presentation, but I do want to remind you all in case you joined late or in case you didn't know or in case you missed it, or if you did pay attention, I want to say it all over again that the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, has opened up. It opened up. Oh, I've been saying yesterday. I kept thinking that today was October 2nd. It's actually October 3rd today. So it opened up 2 days ago on October 1st. My bad. So it's been open for 2 days now. The free application for federal student aid, as I mentioned when I was answering John's question, it qualifies students for a combination of, yes, federal, state, institutional, and even some private entities. When they're giving out those private scholarships, some of them might require the FAFSA as a prereq to give out this money. So a lot of people, there's this urban legend that if a family makes above a certain amount of money, right, or if a family's finances are strong, there's this famous thought that some people are too rich to receive financial aid, but too poor to pay for college out of pocket. So that is a big myth that I like to debunk anytime that I can, because the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, yes, it does qualify students for need-based scholarships, need-based grants, need-based aid. However, there are a lot of merit-based scholarships. So a lot of the state scholarships that I know of that require students to have above a certain GPA or above a certain standardized test scores, a lot of them are merit-based, so you do not have to have financial need. But on top of meeting those requirements, those specific grade quotas, those specific thresholds for, merit, they require to have the free application for federal student aid submitted so that they can assess the family's finances and they can, make decisions about or just keep tracking whatever it may be. They require the FAFSA. So it has nothing to do with how much money your family has. So by making that self-determination of, oh, well, my family's too well off to even bother with filling out the FAFSA, worst case scenario, it took you, for our students, they have step-by-step tutorials inside Best College Aid. So it takes them very, very little time to go ahead and fill out the FAFSA in the correct way. But even if it takes you a long time because you are not in the Best College Aid program and you're doing it for by yourself, that's perfectly fine if you do it right. Even in that case, it took you a day tops, 2 days tops to gather all the documentation, and you're making yourself eligible for not just need-based aid, but merit-based aid as well. So the worst thing that could happen is you get no aid if you don't fill it out properly or if you just don't qualify. But again, that is worst case scenario. Best case scenario is thousands of dollars coming your way in, again, all sorts of financial aid and scholarships, merit based, need based, all those different types of things. So again, when it comes to the opportunity cost, it just makes sense to fill it out because why not? Right. So I did want to remind you all that that's the case for the FAFSA. It opened up on October 1st, and also the CSS profile, as I was telling John, that both CSS profile and FAFSA opened up on October 1st. And then another thing that I wanted to talk about, and this doesn't have anything to do with the presentation that I just finished up talking about the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships, but I do want to remind you all that we are having in Best College Aid a Hispanic Heritage Month sale. I know that people often wonder where we are from. Maybe they hear a slight accent on my part. Yeah, my name is Francisco, and I was born and raised in Mexico. My sister Laura, all of my siblings and I were born and raised in Mexico, moved to the United States in 2011. When we moved to this country, we had no idea how the financial aid and scholarship process in the U.S. worked, just because it's so different from the way that it works in other countries. And certainly college is not as expensive in other countries as it is in the United States, but we're blessed enough that we were able to navigate the process successfully. My siblings and I, combined the 4 of us, we went to college and we received over $500,000 in financial aid, scholarships, all those different things combined between the 4 of us. And we were able to graduate, and we're doing well now. And we decided that we wanted to take everything that we knew and create something for people who don't necessarily have the means to hire a private college counselor, which can cost thousands of dollars. In my case, my family spent around, I don't remember if it was $8,000 or $9,000 for the 4 of us to get this counseling. So we wanted to provide an alternative that gave the quality of a private college counselor, but the accessibility of a free high school counselor, which don't necessarily have the resources to attend to 500 students at once every year and their parents. So that's when we decided to create Best College Aid, our full program. And I'll talk a little bit more about the full Best College Aid program in just a second, but I do want to share with you all, because again, we are Hispanic immigrants. We're born and raised in Mexico. We are running this Hispanic Heritage Month sale throughout an entire month. If you check out the link in bio, we are going to, so if you check out the link in bio, you will be taken to the free training. And again, if you are not interested in paying anything or joining a full paid program, it's perfectly fine. I mean, you didn't have to pay for the last 40 minutes of this presentation. It's not about trying to sell you something. The whole point of this mission is to answer questions like the ones I've been answering throughout the last 40 minutes and help as many people as we can, because this is the information that we wish we would have had when we started this whole process that eventually we acquired. So yeah, that's the reason why we do this free live streams every week. And also because there's, as a catch-all for all the questions that we got, because there's a lot of questions. Maybe today we're talking about financial aid and scholarships and the 4 types of funding that a student can get for college. But last week we may have talked about admissions. We may have talked about extracurriculars. We may have talked about essay writing. So as a way to continue to do these topical presentations, because again, today we talked about financial aid because the FAFSA opened up October 1st. The CSS profile opened up October 1st. So we will continue to do these presentations, these weekly live streams, in order to, again, keep up with what's going on with the college admissions process. And through the different means that we have, again, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, we can continue to reach people and tell them, hey, did you fill out the FAFSA? Hey, it opened up 2 days ago. Hey, it's on a first come, first served basis. Hey, these are the 4 types of federal aid and scholarships that you're eligible for if you act now. So we will continue to do that because that's the mission of Best College Aid. However, if there's a topic that we're not talking about today that we think it's relevant for the college admissions journey, we do have this free training that is a catch-all that gives a general overview of the process. And then for those people who are interested after watching that training to get a more personalized advising and who are interested in learning the overall journey in depth with tutorials. We have partnerships within Best College Aid with companies such as Dell Technologies, which give out discounts to our students and their parents. We have a custom shop through Dell where they apply automatic discounts at checkout. We have partnerships with Kaplan, which we offer our students once they join the ACT Prep Plus program and 1 year access to their learning portal. So we get that for our students. We also have partnerships with RIA, the Research and Education Association, which is the publishing house for the Crash Course books, and all of our students get 30% discount on all those products. So we have compiled a overall program which is meant to give students, again, as I mentioned, the value of private college counselors and more, because again, we have all these partnerships and discounts that my job inside Best College Aid is to get these partnerships so that the Best College Aid membership can have more and more and more value on top of all the advising, all the video lessons, all the private Facebook group. But on top of that, also have these discounts and these extra perks for our students. And yeah, as a catch-all for all this, we have the free training, which does the free training by itself. Again, if you're not interested in paying anything, you just watch it, you get a free training out of it, boom, you're good to go. You can continue not to pay anything and come back to our weekly live streams. But if you do, or if you are interested, because there are people who want to learn more and in more detail, we do have that paid program, which, as I mentioned earlier, because of Hispanic Heritage Month, we have a special sale at the end of the presentation. So just wanted to share that with you all. If you joined late, you can rewatch the replay of this training at our, let's see, I'm sharing slides right now that I did not mean to share. I'm sharing a comment, not a slide. There we go. So yeah, if you came in late or if you missed anything, go ahead and you can follow us on our social media platforms at Best College Aid USA. You can also, again, click the link in bio below, or not in bio, the link below this video on YouTube and Facebook, so that you can register for the free presentation and take advantage of the special discount we are running through Hispanic Heritage Month. And in case you want to see how that works, let me go ahead and share my screen. So right now, you might be watching on YouTube, and this is me right now. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can scroll down back here on the video description. You go to more, and you will see the registration page for the free training. And here you can put your save my seat, and you put in your information, your first, last name, so that we can get you settled in and you can watch that free training. Again, full transparency, we do have that offer at the end for the full paid program if you're interested. But again, if you're not, boom, free presentation, you got out of it, and you can come back here next week, and I'll see you again next week on our free presentations that we'll continue to do about relevant topics depending on what stage of the application journey we're on, or what day of the month it is, or what stage of application season it is. So that's all I had for you all today. I saw that the Best College Aid account was answering questions. I see Aryan commented, hello, this is the end of the presentation. So if you missed it, you can go ahead and check out the replay that we'll be posting as soon as I end this presentation. You can also check out the link in bio for the free presentation on the 6 steps to go to college with scholarships. I am Francisco Cantu. It was an absolute pleasure to share the last 58 minutes with you all. And I will be back here again tomorrow on our TikTok and Instagram accounts. And then again, next week on YouTube and Facebook at 3 p.m. If you liked it, if you got value, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you continue to get these presentations and you can get alerts from where we start so you don't join in late. And that's all I had for you all. Thank you so much and had a blessed rest of your day, y'all. Bye-bye.